Last summer, Disney suffered a rare mishap on their way to defiling yet another beloved work of fiction with the usual DEI casting and woke plotting. Now, normally when Disney wants to destroy a franchise, they don't give you much warning that it's coming. With The Acolyte, for example, everyone kind of knew it would be garbage and a massive insult to the few remaining Star Wars fans. But the full magnitude of the disaster wasn't clear until it actually started streaming. Disney kept the lesbian space witches under wraps until they launched it, and then everybody reacted to it. But with Snow White, Disney had a problem. The Daily Mail got its hands on some photographs of what appeared to be a bunch of time-traveling hobos from the campus of Berkeley in the 1970s, standing in some field in England. And, in reality, these hobos were Disney's new replacements for the Seven Dwarfs. Disney said that instead of the Seven Dwarfs, their new Snow White film would feature magical creatures in order to, quote, avoid reinforcing stereotypes. Now, in another attempt to avoid reinforcing stereotypes, the film also reportedly would not include a Prince Charming, at least not as the character existed in the past. Instead, we were told the film would feature a stronger Snow White who dreams of, bossing everyone around, being a girl boss. And they brought in the writer of Barbie to make that happen. The film's star, Rachel Zegler, was especially adamant about her hatred of the original story, saying, quote, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so, there's a big focus on her love story with the guy who literally stalks her. Weird. So we didn't do that this time. We didn't actually, when we're telling the story, we're not actually going to tell the story. We're not doing that this time. She also added that it's no longer 1937 and promised that Snow White is not going to be saved by the prince because she's a strong and independent leader. Now, this messaging made it pretty clear that Disney was not making a Snow White film. So the only possible reason that they still make a Snow White film is to do everything they can to destroy the memory of the original film and ruin it like every other franchise they've touched. Now, for Disney, as you probably remember, all of this publicity, the Zegler interviews, the Daily Mail leak, caused a lot of unexpected, for them anyway, pre-production problems. People weren't supposed to see and understand just how unwatchable the new Snow White was going to be. It was supposed to be, kind of a surprise, but now there was no hiding it. They came under fire from pretty much everyone. The Game of Thrones actor Peter Dinklage, who has dwarfism, was especially irate, saying that he was taken aback before using some profanity. He also made it clear he didn't want dwarf actors in the film because he's the only dwarf actor who's allowed to get a job, apparently. No one else can. He's pulling up the very short ladder behind him. So a month later, Disney announced that they'd be delaying the release of the new Snow White film, ostensibly because of the writer's strike. But it's pretty clear what was really going on because Disney also released this updated photograph from the film, now featuring a CGI Seven Dwarfs instead of the magical creature hobos. It was going to be this instead. This promotional still gave a lot of people hope that Disney had gotten the message. It led people to believe that they'd gone back and made changes to get rid of the wokeness entirely. But the problem is that Disney fundamentally isn't capable of making anything that is truly non-woke anymore. They just can't do it. You can't, when you hear Disney movies coming out, you don't need to wonder, is it going to be woke? Like, yes, it's going to be. They don't have the personnel to make anything but that anymore, even after they received massive backlash. So with Snow White, they're sticking with the girl boss messaging and presumably the feminist plotting and so on. And we know that because of this footage from a screening of the film, which doesn't release widely until next year. But this footage has made the rounds on the internet. Let's see some of it.
Now you wash the dishes. You tidy up the room. You clean those cobwebs. And he'll use the broom. Me? Whistle while you work. And cheerfully together we can tidy up the place. So hum a merry tune.
So in the original Snow White, she cleans the cottage after woodland animals take her there. She's just happy that she has somewhere to remain hidden when her stepmother is trying to kill her. And when she learns the Seven Dwarfs live there, she offers to cook and clean the place for them as a sign of her gratitude. But in this modern version, Snow White breaks into the dwarf house. I mean, she does that in the original too. Breaking and entering is a theme in both, let's admit. But in this one, she breaks in and then forces the dwarves to clean for her. These dwarves who've been toiling away all day get to come home and get bossed around by the woman whose life they're helping to save and who they didn't invite into their house in the first place. They have to tidy up the place and sing while they do it. So clearly the Barbie screenwriter they hired to write this film thinks that this is a clever kind of role reversal. The woman is in control, the men are subservient, feminism achieved. But when you think about it, it's funny that making a feminist version of a character always means, in practice, just turning her into an unpleasant, unlikable nag. Like, they're never portrayed as competent, kind, well-adjusted. They're always making these weirdly passive-aggressive demands from other characters who didn't do anything to deserve it. All you're doing is, if you want to take a beloved female character and make her feminist, all you're doing is take all the things that make her beloved and get rid of those things. And now you have a feminist character. Like many of you this summer, I intend to spend more time with my family, getting outside, traveling, letting go of some of my routine. But one routine I won't be letting go of is my prayer routine. I'll continue my daily habit of prayer with Hallow, the #1 prayer app in the world. For the third year in a row, Hallow is having their wildly popular Saints in 7 Days prayer challenge, where over the course of 4 weeks, you'll journey through the life of an incredible saint, learning more about their faith, their story, and ultimately their surrender to the will of God in their life. The challenge kicked off August 5th with Joe Mazzulla, the coach of the Celtics, and Saint Sebastian, the patron saint of athletes. Then Rhea Wahlberg will lead meditations on the life of Saint Elizabeth Seton, followed by Jonathan Rumi, walking through the powerful story of Saint Maximilian Kolbe, who sacrificed his own life for the life of another at Auschwitz. Closing the series with Father David Michael Moses and Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati. Saints in 7 Days goes deep into the lesser-known parts of a saint's life to show that while their journey to sainthood were filled with God's grace and glory, they also included human struggle, great suffering, mistakes, and a profound need for God's mercy. Hallow is truly transformative, and it will help you connect with your faith on a deeper level. So what are you waiting for? Download the Hallow app today at hallow.com/Matt Walsh, hallow.com/Matt Walsh for an exclusive 3-month free trial of all 10,000 prayers and meditations. There's a deeper message in all this, although it's one that's obviously lost on the Barbie writer. And by the way, watching that scene, it's not just the writer who's very terrible at her job. You can look at the dwarves. Now, we can presume that this is the CGI they had to create very quickly after they jettisoned the hobos in the photographs that the Daily Mail leaked. But it's been more than a year at this point. Is that really the best they could do? Like, the dwarves look uncanny and cheap, like something out of a Nintendo 64 cutscene in 1999. And these are central characters in the story. Even if Disney has decided to remove them from the title of the film, they still are. Now, to be fair, the one human in the scene doesn't fare much better. Snow White's hairstyle is also weirdly ugly. It's apparently inspired by Javier Bardem's character in No Country for Old Men. And that's it's a bit of a nitpick, but when you have any degree of respect for the source material, you don't make a lot of mistakes like this. You have some level of pride in your work, and you make sure that you put out something that looks like a competent production. But the new Snow White is not a competent production because Disney doesn't care about storytelling. They just don't care about the product they put on the screen. And people on the right tend to think that the political bias is the biggest problem in Hollywood, but Hollywood has been liberal for as long as most of us have been alive. The difference is that while being liberal, they used to care about telling stories. And they put some pride into the stories they told. And now they don't. And that is why Disney's new Snow White and her Nintendo 64 quality CGI dwarves are today canceled. Hey, YouTube, thanks for listening to the show. If you'd like access to my full show with no ads, you should go to dailywire.com and use promo code Walsh to get 2 months free on all annual plans. See you there.